we have director of Pangshu from Sri Lanka, Mr. Visaseka Chandrasekaran. We are privileged to have him on our platform. The director, filmmaker from Sri Lanka, Mr. Visaseka Chandrasekaran. By the way, being a professor at Faculty of Law at University of Colombo, and he later chose to become a filmmaker as well. So we'll ask him about that also. And we have Ms. Neeli. I don't know if you can introduce her.
Sorry, Nadi, just introduce yourself.
Yes.
I'm Nadi Khammalavira. I acted in Panshu. I did one of the lead roles in the movie. And I work as an actor in Sri Lanka. Yeah, and sometimes overseas.
Okay. So let me start with a few questions, then we'll take the discussion forward. Pangshu means soil on earth, soil or earth.
Yes.
So has it something to do with a woman who was in the lead character of the film? The name which you made, you named this film Pangshu.
Yes, yes. So the lead role is actually Baba Nona, that role played by Nita Fernando, and she is a Dobby woman. And then there are other two lead roles. The Namali's role, which is played by Nadi, who is with us today, and then Jagat Manuwarna played the role of the lawyer. So these are the three main roles, and actually the connection is. There are two meanings for Panshu, really. It is not necessarily connected to the character or any character as such, but it is connected to some other, the political symbolism and also the spiritual symbolism. So politically, this is about, we are talking through in this film about people who have disappeared during the time in 1987 to 89. So there were a lot of enforced disappearances because the Sinhalese, you probably know this, I will just kind of anyway repeat it about the film. Without talking that little bit, we can't really move forward. So in 1987, it started and it went until 1989. There was a youth insurgency in Sri Lanka. So you might have heard of Tamil Tigers, but this is not by Tamil Tigers. This is by Sinhalese people who are the majority of the country. And the Sinhalese people, the Sinhalese young people actually fought against the Sinhalese dominant government during that time, and that during that time the government really brutally suppressed that whole insurgency, and approximately about 60,000 people died. A lot of people don't know about, because a lot of people know about Sri Lanka, know about the North and East War in Sri Lanka, but this has happened in Sri Lanka between 1987 and 89. In fact, that is the time that former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi sent Indian peacekeeping force to Sri Lanka. So partially this insurgency is against Indian occupation as well. So what I meant to say is during that time, a lot of people died and a lot of people disappeared, and they were either, the bodies were, destroyed, and sometimes they were buried in mass graves. So the idea of Panshu comes from this burying of the secret, burying of the bodies under the soil. So the Panshu the name comes from that idea of burying under the soil. And the second thing is actually coming rather from Buddhism, and it is a bit difficult to explain, but in Sanskrit, Panshu Kule, in Pali language, Panshu Kule is actually a little piece of cloth that is current days given to the Buddhist monk in the funeral ritual. And that symbolizes the very simplistic lifestyle of the Buddhist people, mainly Buddhist monks, because they are not supposed to have luxurious items. So they are supposed to have a couple of pieces of clothes as in their possession. So that Panshu Kule idea actually is about just offering something in the name of the dead person to the Buddhist monk. And that is also connected to this naming of the film. Long answer, sorry.
No, it's good. Actually, film is a very interesting medium to know about history of a place, about its people, about different incidents that took place in past. This film has its own journey, showing two different situations as to how different people used to face critical situation differently, especially the journey of a woman, which is played by Neeta ji, who was searching for a kidnapped son. So, what made you to choose this particular story?
So actually, then again, I will have to connect to what happened in Sri Lanka. So I think you probably aware of the more recent developments or more recent incidents, like in 2009, the war between the Tamil Tigers and the government of Sri Lanka ended. And during the last stage of the war, approximately there were apparently about 40,000 people died, and they were mostly civilians in the and that numbers could be even more. And those days in 2009, you might have seen in news that thousands and thousands of people crossing the lagoon to escape the war in the east, in the last leg of the war. And during during that time, a lot of atrocities happened. So there were allegations of mass murder and rape and disappearance and so forth. And some of the footage from this last leg of the war came out, because some of those footage were collected by the soldiers involved in the last leg of the war, and as well as the Tamil Tigers. And when they were published mainly through the British television channel, Channel 4, a lot of people were shocked around the world. How could this happen? How could human beings be so aggressive and brutal to each other? And I think I also asked the same question, and then I thought, this is some sort of a curse that we are bearing. And one of the main reasons for that is that we failed to talk about what happened in 1987 to 89. In that time, there were thousands and thousands of people killed. Nobody wanted to talk about that. There were no justice properly executed for the people of those disappeared families. And still, even to date, some people of the disappeared families were not compensated, and then they are still kind of struggling to find out what happened to their loved ones. So we haven't talked about that in 1987 to 89, and then another similar things happening until 2009. So this is why I wanted to tell this story. Now, why I chose a mother is that because mother's love is universal, and you may know that Sri Lanka is ethnically polarized. So the Tamils don't necessarily want to speak about generally, but the unjust happened to the Sinhalese, and Sinhalese don't want to talk about unjust happened to the Tamils, and nobody wants to talk about what is happening to the Muslims. So it's a very ethnically polarized society. But if I bring a mother who lost a son, I thought that ethnic polarization may not be seriously considered, and people can focus on the story and try to understand the pains of a mother. So that's why I brought a character of a mother.
Okay, I have Miss Supriti with us. She is one of the jury member also. So Supriti, would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure. Namaste, Visa.
Namaste.
Thank you very much to you and to Nadi for joining us this evening. I want to first say one thing. I love the Sinhalese language. It is so soft and gentle and like a song. Always, it's so nice and soothing to listen to it. So I loved watching the film. Because of the language and for many other reasons. I'm just going to take off from where you left. You said you were, you focused on the role of the mother. So there is this one scene when Nadi, you're also here, so I want to bring that up. Nadi is waiting outside the court. She's shown as a pregnant woman. She's about to give birth to a child. And here is this other woman, which is Neeta's character, sitting next to her, who is grieving the loss of her son. And then she's cursing and she's saying, for future generations also, their born and unborn will be cursed. So I find that that is life. You lose in one aspect, but in another aspect, you are about to gain. Like Nadi's character she's shown as like in her last term of pregnancy about to deliver a child. So Nadi, can you tell us something about your working on this film, playing that character, something about that?
Yes. The character I played is normally the wife, pregnant wife of the soldier, who is like considered by Baba Nona as the perpetrator, as the one who abducted her only son. Um, I think that my character, Visa Kesa used my character. One is to represent actually, like, although like Baba Nona see me as somebody on the side of her enemy, because I'm the husband, I'm the wife of the man who she thinks that committed this crime. Okay, he's the one. In reality, he's the one. But I tell her, I try to convince her, like, look, like, I'm also on your side, because although my husband, he's the one like who had to implement these cruel orders from the high-ranking military officers, because he was also trapped in that. And I tell her that how helpless he is now, and he's suffering from post-traumatic disorder, like he can't have a normal life. And I went on saying that I have lost rest of my other brothers, like who are serving in the army. So I also represented the poor. I mean, in a way, like, I and my husband were also like victims,
Yes.
Similar to Baba Nona.
Right.
So yes, I think I really liked this character. I am privileged to get this opportunity to play such a role, because I empathize with thousands of women in my country who have undergone so much of sufferings for decades. Like, Sri Lanka is a country, like, we have experienced a 30 years long war and two youth uprisings, and then there are thousands of mothers, ten thousands of mothers, like, still in my country, who are like searching for their children who were forcibly disappeared for various reasons. Like, this is Pancho film is about the time, the terror period, which was like the 1987 to 1989 youth upsurgence. But before that, we had a war, and then people were forcibly disappeared to take ransom. Like, we are a country, like, our earth is like full of blood and full of tears. So I was also on the side of Baba Nona, and at the end of the film, yeah, she realizes that, and yeah.
Yeah, and I can understand as playing the character of a full-blown pregnant woman, there'd be so much anxiety. Here is this woman who is sitting there and saying she had a son whom she nurtured and cared for, and who was like a full adult, and then she just lost him. So for a woman who's just about to become a mother, there's so much more anxiety. What will happen to my child when my child comes into this world? I
Yeah.
think that was very nicely brought out, because I think Visa didn't have to show you as a pregnant woman. You could have just been any other woman just sitting there.
Yeah.
It would have been fine. But to
Yeah.
show that, it shows um, the kind of dilemma that we go through. That is what life is, no?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
has come out very beautifully by uh, the way you acted. You're sitting next to her, and that came out very nicely, that scene in the court.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think Visakha is like being like bringing this character as a pregnant woman, like who is just
Hmm.
about to give birth to her child. And I remember that she once says that she asked from Baba Nona that I know that that was your only son. Was it your only son that you lost?
Hmm.
And she says that this is my only child, like
Hmm.
because she knows that it was not easy for her to get pregnant because the
Yeah,
husband is like yeah, he's suffering from so many you know
yeah.
uh, disorders, so she knows that she will not get pregnant again, and she's the only uh, child that she was going to have. Like
And
I
then,
think there are,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I think there are I mean several layers to her character, uh, and I think that the Namal's character was like really really important.
Yes.
Uh, yes, for the yeah. It I
So
think it's the
I
way
also
that
liked, how afterwards, like when your character goes and vomits, and then she goes and brings water for the cat for you to drink. So though she thinks that you are her enemy because your husband took away her son,
yeah.
but her motherhood, her compassion comes awake, when you want water, and she will go and get it. She goes
Oh
and gets
yeah. Yes.
it.
Yes. I think yes, that humanity or the
Yeah,
motherly feeling that she had. I think it was really beautifully portrayed, and
yes.
Visakha was really yes. Yeah.
So that was lovely. So Visa, I want to come to you. I want to ask you a couple more questions. Um, I read somewhere, I don't remember now, but that Anita did not know how to swim. Is that true?
Yeah, actually, she's terrified of water, and so I was those days living in Australia actually, and so I rang her, and when I offered the character, so um, I then I went and met her,
Hmm.
and I said, "This is a character." So she said, "Yes, actually, it is interesting. I would like to do that." And I said, "You have to. Can you swim?" She said,
Hmm.
"I can't, but I." And then she was kind of she had a pause, and then she said, "I will learn." And so that is really, she understood that at that moment, she has to do this character, and she has to learn to swim
Hmm.
regardless of her fear for water. She didn't tell me about the fear for water until later, and somehow, what, she managed. So there was a period of approximately 6 months since until I met her second time. So when I met her second time, actually I didn't. I met her as well, but she actually told me she still can't swim. She has been going to swimming lessons for 6 months, but she couldn't really swim by herself without the help of the tutor.
Hmm.
So then I said, okay, my main shot is actually you had to swim back the backstroke. Can you do that? So she said, okay, I will try. And actually she managed to do the backstroke, which is fantastic. Yes, and she, I mean, that is one of the most important shots in the film, and she thankfully I didn't have to compromise.
Very nice. I want you to explain one scene to me, which I think must have had more meaning. There is a small, towards the end of the film, there's a small girl who comes and sits down, and Anita's character puts in a pot, she puts leaves and white flowers, and then she puts the water on that girl's head.
Yes.
What does that signify?
So that's actually purification. So when a child becomes a woman, attains puberty, there are different ceremonies amongst in the Sri Lankan community. So the Sinhalese community mainly invites the Dobi woman, and they are generally low caste people, so they're supposed to do all the cleaning in a wedding, in a funeral, as well as in puberty ceremony. So she is the only person that should come and pour the first pot of water after she comes outside the room, being isolated. So generally they are kept in isolation in the room without being able to see other men for roughly about 5-6 days until the auspicious time comes. When the auspicious time comes, she's brought to this specialist place, and she's been bathed by the ritualistically bathed by the Dobi woman. And at one stage she says, Baba Nona says, I did the same ritual for your mother. So yes, because when she asked, can you remember my mother who was shot dead? And she says, yes, I can remember. I know your mother because I'm the one who actually performed the ritual for your mother as well. And you may notice another little thing. When we see Baba Nona going to their house, she was given a small chair. And that small chair signifies the low caste, what is being given to the low caste people as well. So generally low caste people in those village houses, not in urban areas, but in rural areas, are not given equal chairs. They have special chairs in the house.
Okay, yeah. I think it's not very different. Even in India, we experience that a lot. And with women attaining puberty, we have very similar customs. But like you said, they are more to be found in the villages, less in the urban areas. And even that is changing.
Yes.
Actually, very recently, we had a very interesting film that was made around this whole issue. And in fact, that was also part of this festival. It's called Padman, and it's made by a director, R. Balki. So if you get some time later on, maybe you should take a look at that film also. It's around this issue, and it's been portrayed very, very interestingly.
I should watch it, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So Visa, I also want to ask you something. There's a lot of attention to detail. I must congratulate you for that. Right in the beginning, when the lamp is burning, the screen is dark, you can hear the crickets in the background, and the sound of that still night, the sound of the water, even the way you showed the radio, the transistor, when he picks up the transistor to listen to it, the fluctuation in the frequency, all that has been captured very well. Who is your sound engineer? Who's the person who worked on the soundtrack?
Yes, unfortunately, you know what, we used to come to India to get the Foley late because we don't have a lot of sound engineers. So at the moment, a lot of the work is being done by a studio called TVT, and the engineer is Aruna Kaluarachi is a very committed person. But I also have to remember my editor, because after shooting and dubbing, I had to go back to Australia, because those days I was working in Australia. And so then I had to hand over all the post-production coordination to my editor. My editor, this is his second film, and he actually edited my first film as well. Very young person, and he was there on the entire shooting period as well, on the location. He didn't leave the camera and the cameraman, which is really nice as well, just to support us. And he actually paid special attention to sound, the Foley sound. And I even learned a lot from him, because a lot of those details actually come from his instructions. And I say he has good eyes as well as ears. So it's mainly I have to thank him for all that detailed work, actually.
I want to ask, faculty of law, or professor of law in faculty of law in Colombo University. How came he became a filmmaker?
Yes, so I answer both questions in one answer. I can give one answer to that. Actually, I'm only a doctor, not a professor yet. Um, so I think I have to wait for a couple more years to become a professor, but I don't necessarily want to become a professor. So currently I teach a couple of law subjects in the Faculty of Law, and only for last 2 years. So before that I was living in Australia, and I lived in Australia for about 17 years. And I mainly worked in legal centers, helping, basically legal centers help people who can't afford to pay a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I also worked in the government in different departments as a human resources management consultant. So actually what those jobs gave me enough money to produce films. So that's one of the main reasons that I did those work. And also I like those jobs as well, because they give some sort of a discipline to your life, and then you can break the discipline and go into a different sort of discipline when you are making a film. And so 2 years ago I decided to return to Sri Lanka, and I came back and started teaching law in the Faculty of Law.
Wonderful. So, just a coincidence, for many years, I taught economics at the National Law School of India University in Bangalore.
I see.
And yeah, for many, many years I taught. So this is a lovely coincidence. But I must then congratulate you if you are not from the film industry, and in your first or your second film, you have done such phenomenal work. You really deserve a lot of congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But I must add that actually I ran away from home when I was 17 to work in films. And then as an assistant director, so I worked in 2 films and then came back to, went back to the school, because I realized just having a career in film industry is hard. So I then went back to school and university and studied, and I returned to film industry much later with some money in hands, and age and experience as well, life experience.
So does being a lawyer or somebody who can look at the law also give you a sense of rights and duties and a sense of empathy for, like you said, you worked in the legal centers where you worked with people who needed support. So did that help you to develop this kind of sensitivity and empathy, which made you make a film on this topic?
Yes, I think that in a way I have been a generally a sensitive person. I think I could cry very easily, unlike a lot of other men. And I actually, before I left, went to Australia, I practiced in Sri Lanka as a human rights lawyer for about 4 years, during which period actually almost in all the cases my clients were political detainees. They were arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, and almost all of them have been tortured in custody. And so it is a very difficult time. And also I was exposed to a lot of horrendous stories of people. And and also, that kind of dysfunctionality of the legal system, the ministers have flashy cars and they have nice office with air conditions and everything, but the court is so poor, so run down. And even to date, we have some courts like that. Most of them have been renovated. And and I actually, what you see in mainly the court scenario is what I have gone through as a lawyer. And also that whole thing of lawyers' professional arrogance, the way sometimes they don't have empathy towards the ordinary people. And then something changes and, you develop that empathy. So that's what happened to the lawyer character in the film. And yes.
Yeah. So I think it's very nice to see how every step that you have taken, maybe in your life, is contributing to a peak or contributing to something. So being a lawyer, being in the legal center, having an interest in films, it's not either or. It is not either this or that. We can all do everything, because when we do everything, it supports each of those goals? Do you
I
think
think so.
so?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. And particularly when being a lawyer gives you some civil recognition, even to the extent power. And so a lot of things that other people can't do, we can do actually. So my first film is a gay love story LGBT film in Sri Lanka. So we were worried that it might get banned and things like that. But having said that, I think it didn't, and ended up being nationally released, theatrically released, and everything. So, when we made that film, actually, we took the film around to the different universities, and we created this discourse about the rights of LGBT people. And this film also, we actually organized a number of screenings after number of discussions after the screening. So in some rural cinemas as well. So at two occasions, family members of disappeared people came and watched the film and talk about the film. And sometimes they were against the use of, idea of forgiveness. And sometimes they are for the idea of forgiveness. And so I think for me and for us, even, everybody in my team, film is not necessarily something that we do and screen and finish off the job. And actually the real job starts after making the film, because we had to engage the public in this discourse of why we have been so brutal towards each other, and how we're going to ensure that it is not going to be repeated. So, and I think I use the film as a way to initiate that dialogue, and so we can actually continuously engage the public in that sort of a discussion.
Traveled to India ever and met any Indian filmmaker, came across any Indian filmmaker?
Yes, I can't remember a lot of their names. I know Malayali filmmaker Biju. We have met a couple of times. And I met a number of other, the cameraman Ranjan and some other filmmakers. I'm really bad with names. Actually, it was wonderful to come to Pune International Film Festival last year. And so we had a really good reception, and a lot of people really liked Panchu film. And I was also lucky to go to the Guwahati International Film Festival as well. And it was wonderful to travel to India, and it is even wonderful to travel with a film as a filmmaker, because it is great to participate in Indian film festivals. So there is a lot of people, public interest and enthusiasm in Indian film festivals.
What is your idea of collaboration? Cross-border collaboration, collaborating with Malayali film industry or any other parts in India, and making a collaborative film?
I think it is wonderful. I think, in fact, I have a feeling that's where the future lies, because everything is becoming challenging, and we don't have the mass audiences we used to have. We have the mass audiences, but they're not coming necessarily to the cinema. And there are a lot of challenges in terms of getting people to the cinema. A lot of people try to watch online, and then if that's so, we have to cater that audience as well, rather than rejecting that whole idea of online film watching. And also the capital being invested in film is an issue. So I think we really have to think about cross-border collaboration. In fact, actually, there were times that Sri Lanka had a really good collaboration initiatives with Pakistan. They were not art house films, but they were commercial films. And one of our actresses, called Sabita Pereira, was very popular in Pakistan at one stage, I think mid-80s.
Wow.
And then Sabita Pereira, you probably have heard of, and very talented actress. And then Javed was very popular in Sri Lanka, Pakistani actor. And so, but that lasted only for a very short time, and then we missed that. And so I think regardless whether the genre is going to be art house films or the so-called commercial films, we can collaborate. In fact, if we collaborate, we probably can enhance our audience, not only the resources that we are investing. And particularly, at least in Sri Lanka, we speak one of the major languages spoken in India, the Tamil language. So we can actually collaborate with the Tamil Nadu film industry. And the Sri Lankans generally are aware of Malayali film industry. So we have a lot of our hero filmmakers from Malayali film industry, as well as actually Bengali film industry. So I think it is becoming rather a necessity than actually to collaborate, rather than just kind of considering it for the sake of collaboration. For us to survive as an industry, I think we have to do that.
You see, this platform we have created with the similar focus, Indus Valley, to bring filmmakers from all South Asian countries on a single platform and help them to interact with each other and network and maybe plan co-productions, joint ventures. And they can also seek each other's support in technical support or any other kind of support in line production. If somebody wants to shoot a film in Sri Lanka from Pakistan or India, anywhere. So there should be a platform where they all are connected. Genuine filmmakers are connected. That's what we are creating developing this platform in Indus Valley.
Yeah, I think that is a great initiative, and I hope this dialogue will continue. And particularly when that sort of discussion happens in parallel to a film festival, it's even more appealing and it's more promising, because usually these things happen online, you know, in writing and typing emails and things like that. But in this way, you get a chance to meet people and see each other, and also, you know, feel the energy of individuals. It's very important in the art sector, you know, how other person thinks about certain things, and what is a kind of, you know, the type of people and things like that, whether we can work with them and so forth. And I think it is really important that this sort of a forum is created parallel to a film festival. So it is not only you are showcasing the work, but also you are creating these opportunities of collaboration. And I think we are very similar in this region. We have a lot of similarities, and our work ethics are very similar. We understand each other really well, I think. And because of that, it's even easier, unlike working with the European filmmakers, film studio, or even Southeast Asian. But South Asian, our culture is very similar. We understand each other, and I think we have a lot of potential to work together.
Yes, and maybe we can create a unified, larger unified creative industry of South Asia and present it to world, so that as a unified industry, you get access to larger market.
Yes, I think I haven't thought about that, but I think you know, that is a great way to think, because at the end of the day, we in Sri Lanka watch a lot of Hindi films, commercial films, and a lot of Tamil films, and so local Tamil population do not watch any local Tamil films. In fact, we hardly have any local Tamil films. We probably make about one every 10 years. And so it's already there. And what we really need is, particularly for the art house film industry, just to kind of share the stories and share the resources and share the audiences. And also it's one way in a way, because, you know, yes, we watch a lot of materials, the content coming from India, but we Indians are not given that opportunity to watch a lot of content coming from Sri Lanka. Yes. Yes, partially we don't make a lot of good films, either commercially or art house films. But at the same time, partially, whatever the few films we make, whatever the good films we make, should be offered to the Indian audience. And likewise, you know, other countries as well, Bangladesh and Nepal. I actually don't know much about Pakistani film industry, but I think it has passed its golden era, and it is not what we used to have before.
Mm-hmm. True.
And how was the response of Pangshu? How was it taken by public in Sri Lanka?
Yes, as we are talking, the film is being screened in Sri Lanka, theatrically is released, and this is the 7th week actually. So, an art house film to survive in cinemas for 7 week is something really. And also, we made the film in 2.5 years ago, but I didn't have a chance to release this because we have when somebody, when our film is known for international film festivals and some of the awards that we won, like Anita Fernando won the Best Actors Award and some couple of awards like that, there is a kind of general conception that this film is not going to be commercially successful, and it is just a misconception that some film cinema owners would have. And because of that, we didn't have a lot of support, and also it is some sort of an oligopoly of of filmmakers and cinema owners, because it's really hard to break into cinema filmmakers like us into the cinemas and screen our film. And secondly, we had elections, and I didn't want to release this film during election because it could have been misused, and it is an ethical decision that I had to make. And so then came the opportunity, but it is post-COVID. Actually, it's not post-COVID, it's still COVID, isn't it? And so nobody wants to release their films. And I decided, well, if nobody wants, I'm going to release. And we took our team took the challenge, actually. So, and the cinema owners were very thankful, although they were not very supportive of our film initially. But now they were really supportive of the film, because their cinemas have been closed and no filmmakers are giving films to them because nobody wants to release their film in a time like that. But we released, but at the same time, I think it created we got a lot of attention because the media was starving for content. They didn't have anything to report on. And finally, there is a movie coming up, and we created this. We had this really nice, beautiful, glamorous premiere event for which a lot of the cinema stars came, and they all supported as well. They said everybody should go and watch this film. And because of that sort of support and came from everywhere, people started to come back to cinemas. And I can remember one of the cinema owners. So we also went around. We worked very hard. We went around to different cities and organized discussions and tried to bring people to participate in discussion after watching the film. So that attracted more audience, because someone like Nita, she's a legend. She's one of the most popular actresses in the country. She would, get into a vehicle and go with us and meet the audience and talk to them. So that also attracted some audience. So I can remember one manager of a cinema is saying, "Thanks to your film, we are going to get paid this month," because the cinemas were shut down and they didn't get the salary. So I think. So still it is surviving, and I don't know. I think we may be in cinemas for another 3 weeks, but it is really good, yes. And to survive in cinemas for that long in a time like that.
So it has become a commercial success. Huge success.
Yes, that's what I would say. I mean, still the audience is small, and the ticket price have gone down because we had to reduce the ticket price to attract more audience. So whatever the income we are receiving is probably not going to be adequate, but at the same time, in a time like this, people are coming to the cinemas, which is fantastic.
It will also encourage other filmmakers and you also to make similar kind of film. I mean, content-oriented film.
Yes, it does. And I think when these sort of films come, that whole myth about art house films, award-winning films not going to win the audience is going to be busted. So right. we need more myth-busting films, actually.
So Preeti?
Yeah, so actually I want to go back to Nadi's character, because towards the end, she comes with her baby. After she has delivered the baby, she comes with the baby to meet Nita's character. And there is a bonding between two women that happens that time, isn't it? She forgets that you are the wife of the man who killed her son or is responsible. She forgets that. And in that one moment, there is so much bonding, so much forgiveness. Tell us about that.
I think by the time that I go and see her with my little daughter, after a few months after I gave birth to my child, I think by that time she has made her mind. She has taken a decision to let this court case go, and she has forgiven from her heart to this man. So and I am going to meet her to express my gratitude to her. And there was a beautiful line that I said in the film. I told my little girl, little baby, that this is the goddess that saved your father, uh, and that I meant that this woman is like a goddess, and he saved your father. And so I think that was such a beautiful moment. And then uh, she covers me and the baby with the white clothes to give us some shade. And I sat with her, next to her, like having a relaxing moment. That was, I think, both these women have found some peace
Yeah.
within themselves. Uh, so yeah, I think it's a very triumphant moment, uh, because it was like two separate journeys of these two women, but parallel to each other.
Yes.
And but finally they got together.
Yes.
And I think both of them found life, found some inner peace within themselves, like they have, yeah. I think that's a great moment in the film,
Yes.
uh, the moment that these two women, has this strong bonding.
Yeah.
Yes.
True. So and because you mentioned goddess, I was reminded of that scene, when Anita's character she's told that you go to Colombo 8, and she goes in the bus to find her son. And when she enters the bus, there is uh,
Fortune teller. Yeah.
like another woman, like a gypsy woman or a rural woman who enters the bus, but she's like she can tell her future or something like that. Is it? She's telling
Yeah.
her that show me your palm, show me your hand. I want to read your hand. Correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So can
She's
you
a
tell me? Yeah, tell me
uh,
about.
she's a fortune teller. Like we have like them
Yeah.
gypsy. Yes, as you said, the gypsy fortune teller.
Hmm.
And she's also a woman. I think, yeah, the things that she told her, she told Baba Nona, like about that. Uh, she was like implying that she's on a journey, searching for somebody, and she's very tired, and all sorts of things. I think Visakesa used her character, to symbolize something. Uh, I think Visakesa can talk about that character more than me, like why he used that fortune teller at that moment. Yes, Visakesa, can you please, like, because you are the one who created the character, and you may have more than, you know more than me about that character.
Yeah, I think it is that whole idea of until you see the dead person's the body, you're not going to believe that somebody is not there. That person, even after she actually at one stage finding out remains of a body, when somebody comes and say, well, your son is in the hospital, she thinks he's alive. Because that whole idea of seeing the dead person is not going to anything other than seeing the dead person is not going to give you the belief that that person has gone. And I think partially the other woman intuitively picks that, she picks that, because in the if you look at in that particular scene, she has some offerings taken from a Hindu temple in her hand, and also a little bit of vibhuti on her forehead. So which means she has been out of the temple, which means she's in trouble, and she has been begging something. And the other woman is intuitive to ask, okay, know that she is going to be somebody, who is going to ask for help. And so I think there are two sides, and each time when she meets somebody like that, it's going to give her hopes. Before that, mother goes to the Buddhist monk and say, "Can I check the horoscope?" And she's basically, in fact, going to check the horoscope of a dead person, but she doesn't know that, and she doesn't think he's still dead. So you try to find all the other avenues outside this physical world to reassure that person is alive. And I think this is one of the occasions that it happened. And as Nadi said, it's all women actually. So it's this kind of she gets this. They all are struggling one way or the other in their life, and including the gypsy woman. And if she only tells somebody a lie or truth or whatever, fortune, something to do with that other person's future, she's going to make an earning. So I found that connection as well there.
Okay, I'm going to come to the last scene where she's doing her backstroke in the water. It's amazing. The water is never ending. It's like a sea. And, is there a message you're giving through that scene?
Yeah, I think it has a lot of I wanted to say a lot of things in that scene.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that I have planned, and something that actually came to me after seeing that particular scene. And actually you see that she's actually not swimming with the tides, but she's swimming against the tide, something like that. And that whole idea of swimming against the tide was in my subconscious, but it didn't properly come to my surface conscious until I watched the movie properly. And also, in a way, it is resurrection, or kind of, going up to the sky. So if you look at that shot, it is not about a shot that moving from left to right or whatever. It is kind of going from the ground to the sky. It's kind of almost divine character. But I guess the most important things that I wanted to say about that is that the weapon symbolizes the secrets that we don't want to share and tell each other. And in a war, used generally, the people who lose the war do not talk about the shames. And they don't say how many times they have been assaulted, or they have been raped, or they have been just their things have been taken. And people don't want to talk about that because it is shameful, partially. And also partially, a lot of the rebellion movements don't want to share those stories because that's also shame, and also it is secret. And this mother inadvertently becomes part of that rebellion by hiding one of the key piece of evidences that's going to be used against her son in the future. And she actually, in a way, collaterally joined the son's rebellion movement by hiding a very significant piece of evidence. And also, there are a lot of things about that. So she hides it under the mud of the tank where she washes the clothes. And that's the tank that all the dirt of the entire village is being washed off. And in the same place that gun is hid. And she herself would never utter a word about the gun to anybody. She only spoke to that whole idea about gun to that one person who is a teacher who had a friendship with her son. And other than that, she went through the court cases and she pretended that she's the innocent. Her son didn't do anything. And in fact, that whole idea of forgiveness is very problematic here, because who is forgiving whom? And who is the perpetrator and who is the victim here? And then and that she's also sharing that secret of the rebellion, and she's also sharing that shame. And the other thing is, in a way, you would think, is she hiding the gun to be used against or not used again? But then the son says, son's voice we hear from the heavens or wherever, he says, well, it might have been rusted by now, so it's not going to be useful. So I wanted to say a lot of things in that last scene, and there were certain things also came up later that I haven't realized that scenes probably could be interpreted in that way.
Yeah, even the shot is taken like the water is going like that. It's not flat. The is taken like that. So it looks very nice. I mean, as a person who's watching, you can feel the water is so big, in
Yes.
front of you. It's just water, and she's doing the backstroke in that. And I was thinking, she doesn't know swimming. Oh my gosh, isn't she feeling scared? And that's
She
what I was thinking.
she was so scared, but I think that really suited as well, because she's so scared about this whole thing of hiding the gun. And
Yeah,
so and then, I mean, of course, she's fantastic actress, she's
yeah,
one of the best actresses
she
we had. And and I think everything came, just kind of came to the right place, and that particular scene. And we actually, there were a lot of my crew members were around her, outside the frame when we shot that, so she had some protection. And
yeah.
also we had to lie to her, because there was a crocodile in that tank. And so somebody told her that there is a crocodile, then we lied to her, no, that's a joke, but in fact there was one.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yes. And I think, she just took that challenge. And however, of course, I mean, it's she managed to somehow float on her back, which is fantastic. She's somebody who didn't know how to swim. She managed to float and swim backward, which is really, really good.
I wanted to know what is the space of OTT in Sri Lanka? Because in India and other countries, OTT is becoming huge, very huge. Now most of the content are going through OTT nowadays. So what is the space of OTT in Sri Lanka?
Not as big as India, I think, because we have a couple of online platforms, but they are not very widely used actually. People who have the capability to purchase those online content are still not paying. People in our region are reluctant to pay and watch online, because they're always looking for pirated versions, and so a lot of the films, particularly Bollywood and Hollywood films, are actually available as pirated DVDs in Sri Lanka, which you can purchase for about 25, 30 Indian rupees, in public bazaars. So and because of those reasons, it's not as developing as much, but I think down in the track it will be more popular, those online platforms. And we have two online or on-demand television channels, online television channels. They are actually, we call them satellite TVs, and they are on demand. And we have 3 or 4 local online platforms, and which are not doing fantastically well, but they are okay. And but I think probably the most popular online platform in Sri Lanka is still, what is making a lot of money, is Netflix, I think. And we have a lot of potentials. And in fact, I can remember some people are talking about, we really need a proper online platform to this region, because actually the content and the sourcing decisions are made by some people in Europe when it comes to Amazon and Netflix. And I think rather than those companies dominating, we need a South Asian a platform to share our materials, and probably for much lesser price. We probably don't have to pay what we are paying to Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah, that is our goal with this Indus Valley, to create it such a platform.
Great.
This is time to screen your film, Pangshu. So I wanted, if you can just introduce the film in 2 sentences for public as a trivia, then we start the film.
Yes. Look, I think democracy is very important to us in our region. And in fact, I mean, I treasure Indian democracy more than Sri Lankan democracy, because if India lost its democracy, we will not have any faith. So but the thing is, it doesn't end in a mechanical way by going to a election and voting and selecting a member. It has a lot of other things. So one of those things, some of those things are consciousness, forgiveness, reconciliation, love, affection, human relationship. I think they are part of democracy, but we do not articulate in that way. And I think by making this film, what we wanted is just to see the other side of democracy, the human part of democracy. And without that, that mechanical way of thinking and mechanical way of trying to preserve the democracy will not work. We have to have that relationships with humans.
Thank you, Visa Sekha, for joining us. You speak very well. You are very articulate, and thanks. We are overwhelmed in with talking to you. And thank you, Nadi, also joining us. And it was pleasure talking to both of you. Supriti, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much. I hope you make even more beautiful films, and I hope we all get to meet sometime. Wish you lots of success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is fantastic to see you all online.
Thank you. Nice talking to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.